Testimony. I think the most common misconception, and maybe it's just myself, regarding a testimony is people think it's their story, when in actuality it's about God's goodness and what He's done in our lives. My past is interesting. I've always been involved in church, and I've always had that deep down sensation or feeling that Jesus was my Lord and Savior, and that God's always been there. Now, having said that, I went astray for a long time. I was raised in church and all these things, and I knew He was there, and I knew He was watching and He was with me, but that still didn't stop me. And I think one of the good things, or the cool things about God and Jesus, is that they allow us to go astray to show us how true and how real and how deep their love really goes. You know, I was in the throes of addiction for a long time. I was in and out of church. I almost died. The result of my self-will and God allowing me to get to those depths to bring me back around has proven to be worth a lot. It's brought me that much closer to Him. And I think that, you know, I committed my life to Christ before, but I don't think I ever truly surrendered, if that makes sense, you know? There's a difference between saying something and doing it, and that was me for a long time. You know, when I think about the word surrender, right? If you're in war and somebody surrenders, you don't just say, okay, I surrender. Like, you put down the gun, you throw up the white flag, and you do whatever the enemy tells you to do, or the opposing force tells you to do, right? So I had to do that with Christ. I had to take action behind the surrender, you know, because actions speak louder than words. So I had to do those things necessary to follow up that committing to Christ again, you know. I recommitted, and since then I've gotten rebaptized, and my life has changed 1,000-fold. You know, I think one of the most important things in a walk with Christ and having Him as your Lord and Savior is prayer. For me, prayer is monumental. You know, I talk to my fellow believers, and you know, you don't get to know somebody, you don't develop a relationship with somebody by just staring at them in the face. You know, you have to talk to them, you have to communicate. And I think that's what prayer does. Prayer is my communication with God, you know, and He speaks through me as I go about my day and shows me these signs that I'm on the right track, you know. And speaking of my past a little bit, talking, you know, I was in the throes of addiction and alcoholism and some other things. And to me, that's self-will. That's not God's will by any means. I had to live those things out for me to truly and fully surrender completely and put the action behind it. And you know what? I can sit here and truly say that I'm grateful for those, because, you know, I believe and I'm right where I'm supposed to be, you know? Those people who have been in the darkest places, I think, you know, the light shines brightest with them. And I believe that I've been in the depths of hell on earth, and Jesus and you know, He's brought me out of that and brought me to a place that I didn't even know existed almost, you know? I can sit here today and truly say that because of Jesus and what He's done for me, I have a peace that passes all possible understanding. It's unshakable. And it wasn't until I really surrendered and committed and started doing these things that I knew how much fear I was living in. And faith diminishes fear. But they also say that faith without works is dead. And I had faith, but I had no works behind it. But today I do. And I think that's an unshakable foundation to go about my daily walk and to try and help other people and live the life that was designed for us Christians, you know. I'll say this too, it's not always easy. It's against the grain, it's against what the world wants you to conform to. It's not always easy. But in the end, it's so worth it. It's just so worth it. So, one of the prayers that I pray every day, multiple times a day, is the serenity prayer. And the serenity prayer is, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. What I don't think people realize is that, God, that's taking me out of the picture. That's asking him for something. And the word grant, back in the day when the U.S. was expanding or whatever, and like the Oklahoma Sooners, they would give land grants to families, right? So they would give them a piece of land and say, here you go out there, harvest it, cultivate it. But if you don't produce, we're going to take that back from you. So with God, God grants me my peace that passes all possible understanding on a daily basis as long as I come to him with all those problems. But from my past, my self-will, living what I've lived, shows me that the second that I try and take the wheel again, Christ swipes that serenity right away from me, because it's only a grant. It's not mine. It's on lease. He's giving it to me. In a sense, I'm earning it on a daily basis by trying to align my will with his and have his will be done and not mine. Because the result of my self-will, had me in places that I don't wish my worst enemy would ever go to, It just wouldn't. So it's a beautiful way to live. But I think, if anything, the emphasis has to be on the word surrender. And there's got to be action behind that surrender. And there's got to be follow-up consistently, every day, every hour, every minute. And we are human, and we will fall. But I think the good thing to remember is that all happens for a reason. He knows. And through trial and tribulation comes strength. And as long as we keep our eyes on him and stay aware, there's lessons he's trying to teach us in those things. And it's our job and our duty to learn those lessons, because my experience shows me if I don't learn those lessons, he's going to bring them back around again until I do learn. I don't know. I don't know. It's such a better way to live. I've been in some dark places, and this way is just so rewarding on so many levels. If you would have asked me where I'd be today 2 years ago, I would have sold myself short 1,000-fold, time and time again. And, from what I hear in the elders and people who have been committed to Christ a lot longer than me, it's only going to get better. So I'm excited, I'm inspired, and it's good stuff.